G'day mates, my name is Ryan and I am the Straw Hat Backpacker. For those of you that do not know, I am going to jump on a plane to New Zealand where I've spent the last year and I'm going to walk across the country. This is going to be a vlog that I'm starting and it's going to be about the walk. It's going to be about the daily life that I'm going to be experiencing, my thoughts on everything, my thoughts on the trip, my thoughts on what I'm learning, what's going on inside my head, how I'm feeling. It's just going to be raw, unedited content with me on the trail. Basically, I'm going to give you guys a summary of what I'm going to be doing. Tomorrow, I am going to be leaving for Auckland, New Zealand, and I'm going from there to the very northern tip of New Zealand called Cape Reinga, and I'm going to start my walk there on a trail called Te Aurora. Now, for those of you that have not heard of this trail, which I'm sure most of you haven't, Te Aurora is a through hike that opened up about 4 years ago in New Zealand. It's a 3,000 kilometer, 1,900 mile through hike that I'm going to be taking from the very northern tip of the North Island to the very southern tip of the South Island of New Zealand, Cape Reinga to Bluff. It is my goal to do it in about 4 to 4.5 months. So first I'd like to talk about a quick background of my past before this. So a year and a half ago, I was not a traveler at all. I lived in Omaha, Nebraska my whole life. I decided a year and a half ago, day after my birthday, March 4th, 2014, to sell all my stuff, book a one-way ticket to Japan, and start traveling the world via walking. I did just that. I saved up money for about a year, dedicating myself to this grand travel. On that day I left, I sold all my things and I left the country. After that, I flew to the very southern tip of Japan, Cape Sata, and I began my walk across Japan there. Throughout my time in Japan, starting in the South Island, I met a lot of great people. I experienced a lot of great things, all the way from sneaking into abandoned amusement parks to sailing to islands of rabbits or islands of cats to exploring haunted forests, meeting the most amazing people in the world and seeing the most amazing things. It's been a crazy adventure for me. I have a lot more videos and stuff that you can check out if you want to see some of my adventures in Japan, which are on my YouTube channel as well. It ended up taking me about 5 months to walk across Japan, starting in the southmost island of Kyushu, working my way through Honshu, and then finally Hokkaido. It was easily the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. You know, I was very much a beginner going into all of this. I made a lot of mistakes throughout my trip. I was still, new to long distance traveling, and I still consider myself an amateur to long distance traveling, but I have gotten a lot better. Upon completion of my trip in Japan, I set out for New Zealand. So the hike that I'm going to be on is called Te Aurora. And like I said, this trail is 3,000 kilometers. It's going to take me about 4 months to do it, but it's going to be a lot more challenging than Japan, something that I really have never experienced. To put it into perspective, Japan and New Zealand, roughly the same size in terms of the main island's length. You have about 125 million people in Japan versus about 4.5 million people in New Zealand. So you get the same size, but you get about 1/30th the population. So unlike Japan, I was hitting a lot of towns, I was seeing a lot of people. If I was in trouble, I was always, within distance of a town, and it was never really an issue since I was on highways. Whereas New Zealand, I'm going to be going through a lot of backcountry. It's going to be a lot more challenging in terms of the terrain, in terms of lack of people, weather conditions, river crossings. There's just so much more to consider with a trail like this. Studying all this, studying resupply points, studying nature, weather conditions, terrain, my maps, just getting everything ready to go, picking the right gear for this trip because it's a lot different than my trip in Japan, so I got to have the right gear for it. It's not a walk in the park by any means. It's going to be something that is gonna push me to the greatest limit that I've ever experienced. So I got to be ready for it. So throughout these 4.5 months, I am going to be keeping this video log It's going to be kind of my diary, what's going on in my mind as I'm walking, what I'm learning, what's hard, what's coming easier than I thought, and just anything and everything. I'm gonna have my buddy Frodo here with me every step of the way. He walked across Japan with me, and together, me and him are going to destroy the ring of power I have here. It's kind of cool because Te Aurora is, in fact, a trail that goes through a place called the Tongariro Crossing, and that's where they filmed Mount Doom, which is actually an active volcano, a very active volcano in New Zealand. So I'm literally going to be walking the One Ring into Mordor and destroying it. So you'll be able to follow me along my path across Middle Earth with my buddy Frodo here as we do that. And yeah, just learning a lot of things, and showing you guys what it's like to take a through hike across a country and living in the backcountry and experiencing these, like being so enveloped in nature and surviving in nature. You know, I'm as new to this as you guys are. I'm familiar with walking, but I've never walked through such an extensive amount of backcountry. So we're going to be learning new things together, and I'm really going to look forward to showing you guys these things as I continue my walk. Another really cool feature about this walk that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having this. This is my Delorme inReach that I'm going to be using, and it's a really cool device. It's going to be tracking me wherever I go. So as I walk, it's connected to my Delorme account online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the link to my Delorme account in the bottom. So if any of you guys are curious, following me, you'll be able to track me wherever I am at all times. It's really cool. It leaves a trail of breadcrumbs, and wherever I am in the world at whatever time, you're going to be able to know. So stay tuned with me as I begin my walk, and as we progress through it and achieve something great. I look forward to all of you guys following me. I got a flight in about 10 hours now, so I got to go and get packed, but I'll see you guys in New Zealand when we get started. I look forward to having you guys along my journey. So does Mr. Frodo. We'll see you guys soon.